Okay, we're recording. So thanks for joining, Villond. I'm excited for this, and I want to draw out your story, and we'll see where we go in this interview.
Okay, thank you for having me.
Yeah, cool. So we met. I think we met 5 or 6 months ago in one of those calls for Compassion Prison Project.
Yes, we did, give or take, yeah, 5, 6 months ago.
Is that about when you joined?
Yes, I joined the first day, as a matter of fact, that I was introduced to CPP talking to Fritz.
Okay. Do you remember? Was that May or April?
Um, I paroled in March, so it was around mid-April, early May.
Okay. That's when I had it in my mind too. I joined those calls in about March. And so when you joined, I was drawn to you. I felt like you were a deep human being, and I was kind of magnetically drawn to you and wanted to get to know you more.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So I want to draw out your story. Um, how did you how did you find out about Compassion Prison Project? What was the your entry point into that?
Well, prior to being paroled, I was paroled March 19th, 2020, and Fritzy did the Compassion Prison Project at the prison, at the facility that I was at, and I was a part of it. I was a member going to this group, and the group lasted maybe, I think it was a 12-week course on trauma. And I was introduced to Fritzy. She was the facilitator dash sponsor, and I really enjoyed the class because I learned so much about trauma. So fast forward, she did the first prison CPP trauma project at the prison I was at, which was Lancaster, and I was a part of it. And it was a group of maybe 100, give or take, 200 men, all different races, nationalities, ages, that participated. And we all went to the yard, the main yard, just formed a giant circle. And in this giant circle, there were the ACE test that was asked, certain questions, a litany of 10 questions. It was 10 more questions added. And each time we said yes to a question, we had to take a step forward. So before she can finish the questions, the whole circle was basically compact. And just looking around, that really did something for me and to me, spiritually, mentally, and physically, because it allowed me to not only release certain things, stigmas that I had, but it also allowed me to understand that trauma affects everyone. It doesn't matter age, race, sex, gender, religion, anything. Trauma is just universal. And that was the thing that really stood out to let me be aware, understand that I wasn't the only one going through what I was going through, and I wasn't the only one who was trying to seek some type of healing.
Was that the actual circle that's in the video? Step inside the circle. Were you part
Yes,
of
it
that?
is. I participated in that. Like I said, that was a Lancaster prison. So fast forward, once I paroled, I didn't even recognize Fritzy at first because because when they come in, they have to dress a certain way. They basically gotta look a certain way, certain codes that they have to have and pass prior to coming in. So I was on Facebook one day, just scrolling through, looking for other people, looking for some things, and I just seen her face. I was like, huh, I look like that little lady that was, the Lancaster, not even a couple months ago. And I didn't really pay attention to it. So as time went on, maybe a week later, scrolled looking for somebody else, and she kept popping up. So I was like, man, I wonder if that's that same lady. It looked like her. So give or take, it took me about 3 weeks to really just punch it in and see, okay, is this her? So when I punched her in her name, it popped up, and I was like, that is her. And I seen the video of the CPP circle that she did in Lancaster, and I was like, man, I was a part of that. So I contacted her seeking assistance if she had any connections to another um, job site that I was trying to see. And in the process of doing that, she goes, "Okay, well, who are you?" And I explained to her who I was. I was a little quiet individual by the door, and she had taken pictures prior to the last ending of the group. And when I pointed myself out, that's what started. She said, "Hey, we're working on something with CPP dealing with returning citizens. Would you like to be a part of it?" And basically, that's how I joined in. I went to the first meeting on Zoom because everything is COVID now. So
Yeah.
there's no more physical contact. And basically, that's what started the ball. I was interviewed and um, took the test as far as a book and other little questions, and everything worked out good. And here I am now, still shining.
Yeah, absolutely. And you and I and Fritzy ran a circle last week on Zoom,
Yes.
and I was super impressed by how you led that session and the depth that you went to in that session.
Thank you
Would
very
you be
much.
willing to talk a little bit about that?
Well, being a part of this session for the first time, actually running it, that also did something for me because I think we had, matter of fact, 25 people on there total, and people from different walks of life, different backgrounds, never meeting each other. And this was the first time some of us actually came together as a whole, and people were vulnerable basically because we had to let our walls down. We had to trust one another. We had to understand that even though all of us were traumatized in some type of way prior to the age of 18, and how our trauma prior to the age of 18 still affects us as adults now. So once I participated in this format, it opened up a lot of things within me, and it helped me learn certain things about myself even more. And I realized that I did touch a few individuals who's a part of the circle, who's a part of that process. And it also let me know that my calling in life, part of my calling in life, is being some type of mentor, dealing with trauma on ways on how we can heal, ways on how we can cope, ways on how we can understand how to learn from one another, and not feeling ashamed as to what happened to us. Because trauma, there's no shame in trauma. And sometimes I had to realize that when we were traumatized, we would feel shameful of it, or the issue would come up, and that's what caused us to do negative things, because we would pick negative coping tools, whether it was drugs, alcohol, sex, eating, whatever we would do to block it out. And that's where that negative coping skills come from. So with this group and this class, I've learned that instead of running to the negative aspect of it, how to run to the positive coping tools, whether it's meditation, whether it's talking to someone, whether it's breathing, whether it's writing a journal, whether it's exercising, whether it's just basic, just all types of sorts of things we can do to help deal with our past trauma.
One of the things that stood out in that session in particular was you reached out to a woman on the call, and I think you apologized.
Yes, and the reason why I apologize was prior to the meeting starting, no one knew about each other, like I said. So she didn't know anything about me, my background. I didn't know anything about her. And when she first opened up and stated her reasons for being there the first time, it was kind of shallow. But then once, before we started, she came back again and just wanted us to know why she was here. So when she said why she was there, it touched me because I was, honestly, I was kind of fearful, because in my mind, I was like, whoa, here it is.
What did she say, Villond? Can you remind us? Like,
She said that her father was murdered by a teenager between the ages, I think she said 16 or 17. And
yeah,
even though I wasn't that person that did it, that committed the murder of her father, I understood what she felt and what she was going through, because I was young when I committed my crime as well. I was 18, just turned 18, fresh out of high school, and never imagined that my life would be taken from me like that. And after I was arrested, like I shared with her, my uncle was also murdered, and he was murdered on his front porch. So having someone lose a loved one like that, especially someone that you're close to, a parent, an uncle, a sibling, it does a dramatic change on not only the human psyche, spiritually, physical, everything. And at that time, I thought I was being punished per se. I thought karma was coming back to get me for something that I did. So I had to figure out a way on how I can apologize to this lady and the panel itself because I was a part of that pain. Though I wasn't the one that committed the crime towards her father, I still was a part of that because I was once that 16, 17-year-old child that committed the same heinous act of murder, taking someone's life. So I had to figure out how I can dig within to apologize to this lady for her pain and also at the same time letting her understand that I'm healing and I want her to dig in and find a way to heal as well. And basically that's kind of how everything turned out. And it was beautiful because she understood, she felt me, she thanked me for it, and that's part of what we call living amends. Living amends is something that we just constantly do. We live it. We don't talk about it, we just do it. So that was my opportunity to participate in a living amends situation.
I imagine that that was healing for you, and I can guess because I have done some of that work myself from a restorative justice perspective. That's what it sounds like.
Yes, it was very healing because, like you said, the work that you do and the work that I have participated in with my past classes, it's what they call the victim meets the victimizer.
Uh-huh.
And it's like a go between with a mediator to where it's not mandatory, it's all volunteer, to where the victims can meet the victimizers and basically converse. And it's a beautiful experience because that's what I felt at that moment. I felt like a healing process was taking place for both of them on my behalf, with her feeling my pain and feeling the sympathy, the empathizing with her, the apologies felt, and then hers on understanding that there is a healing process, understanding that it's going to take time. The wound is not just going to disappear on its own, but it's just a way to create a dialogue with all the why's questions and all the how questions that were never probably answered in this woman's life.
Yeah, absolutely. My version of that, and I want to get deeper into your story, but my version of that was, I don't know if I've told you this, when I went to Kern Valley State Prison, which is another prison that Fritzy has gone to. I told the story of when I got mugged and stabbed, and it I felt very seen and heard by some of the guys there, and um, it was very healing for me to open up about that. And I was crying and emotional about it, and felt like this connection, this like human connection of the empathy between, like you're saying, victim and victimizer. And that's one case in which I was uh, playing that role of doing the work of restorative justice. Now I've also committed crimes, and I'm doing work on that as well. So
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting to like play both sides. Um, But curious, yeah, what comes up for you there?
Um, it's the same feeling because growing up as a teenager, as children, as young adults, we don't look at a lot of the situations that we put ourselves through, first of all, and we put our victims through until we become the victims, per se. And it gives us a different angle on looking at, okay, is this karma? Okay, why did this happen to me? And we hear the most common thing, well, you was in the life, or you had that coming, or you put yourself in that situation. And I learned that it's deeper than that. It's
Mm.
totally deeper than that. So when a person can talk to an individual that I hurt personally, or an individual who was hurt, I still take responsibility for that because I was a part of that lifestyle. I was a part of those victimizers preying on the weak, preying on the vulnerable. And when it reverses and happens, backfires, it's like, ah, I thought I was invincible. Ah, this wasn't supposed to happen to me. I'm the person that's doing it. And it's a aha moment. It's an eye awakening moment.
Mm. When you yourself are in the role of the victim, when somebody commits a crime against you or some violence against you, then
Yes, yes.
yeah. Okay, cool. So I think there's probably a lot there. But before we go there, is how long, because this is powerful from you, I've heard it from you several times. How long were you in prison?
I did a total of 32 years, 2 months, and 3 days exactly.
Yeah.
I was arrested January 16th, 1988. I was paroled March 19th, 2020.
Yeah. What's it like now, you know, having gone through that?
It's still sinking in as far as I'm actually free, that I'm not living in the cage anymore,
Mm.
that I'm not being subjected to being told what to do 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'm not being told when I have to eat, how I have to eat, how much time I have to eat. I can walk on the beach and just listen to the ocean. I can sit under a tree and just feel the breeze. I can go to a park with grass and watch children play and laugh, the innocence. I can wake up at 1 o'clock in the morning and make a full course meal without asking anyone. So it's like I can't really find an adjective that can fully describe or express what it's like to be given a second chance at life, basically. It's like I'm being reborn again. It's like I'm fresh out of the womb. You paid your dues, you paid your debt, okay, start all over, start from ground zero. And that's the close I can explain it. That's the what it feels like.
That's amazing, man. It feels like a real sense of gratitude and appreciation for life.
Yes, because it took me a while to learn and understand who I was as a person. Because prior to being arrested, I didn't know who I was as a person. I thought I knew who I was as a person. I thought I was a man because I had money in my pocket. You know, I had girlfriends or whatever. I had my own car. So that's not being a man. That's not even being an adult. Anybody can do that. So it took me years to realize that I was never a man. I was just a male. It took me years to realize what true responsibility was. It took me years to realize what an adult was. It took me years to realize the life lessons that my dad, my mom, my aunt, any of my elders were telling me, now I understand it. Now I see why they said don't go right, and I went right. I see what they say by don't go around the corner, and I went around the corner. I see what they say by don't go over there, and I went over there anyway. Because when we're teenagers, we're children, everything to us is like fantasy. Everything to us is make believe. Oh, our parents, they old. They don't know what they're talking about. Oh, they don't know what they're talking about. But because we fail to realize and we forget that our parents were teenagers at one time too. You know, our parents weren't always 30, 40, 50 years old. Our parents were 12, 13, 15, 8, and they went through the same test in life that we went through. Life repeats itself. And that's one thing that stood out that helped me realize like they did know what they was talking
Mm. They got some wisdom too.
about. Yeah, a lot of wisdom, a lot.
So yeah, take me back there. What age did you start kind of committing crimes or
At the age of 12 is when I start venturing off into my criminal activities and my lifestyle. And I know that's a young age. On my mother's side, I was the youngest. I was the baby. I was like the little mascot because all of my brothers, cousins, uncles, you know, they would take me with them to the store or take me with them to go buy a burger or whatever. So I was always like their little mascot. And I was spoiled growing up. So I would always get a treat if I went, or a pair of shoes or a shirt. It was always something of an adventure. And my biological brother and my god brother end up going to the military, and they're 4 years older than me. So when my god brother and my biological brother went to the military, I went through a period of loneliness because it was like, you know,
this
my
was in your
buddy,
like mid-teens? You're like
yes, this is still
15,
at the
16,
age of 12, 13.
12, 13. Yeah.
So I went through a period of loneliness, not realizing that I had abandonment issues. I felt like, you know, they just left me and never came back and just basically left me on my own. Not realizing that they were older, they were getting their lives together. So I began to hang out with my older cousins. And in the process of hanging out with my older cousins, they were already in the streets, running around, whatever. And they were already selling marijuana, drinking, whatever they were doing at that time.
And this was
So,
outside of LA, Villond?
no, this is in LA. Yeah.
LA. Yeah.
Yes. I grew up in Inglewood to be exact,
Yeah.
which is a city in LA County. And going, hanging around my older cousins, I would see them have large sums of cash. I would see them with little baggies. I would see them drinking and whatnot. Now, I'm a square at the time. I'm still penny loafers. I always wore glasses. So I got my little nerdy glasses on, my backpack, and I'm trying to, you know, run around these dudes who are already older, out of school, dressing a certain way. They driving cars. I'm like, whoa, man, I want that too.
Yeah.
And not realizing that that was the start of a lifestyle that wreaked a lot of havoc. And I was introduced to marijuana, selling marijuana cigarettes back in the days, which they called $1 a piece. They were joints. So
Those friends just said, "Hey, do you want to sell marijuana?"
no, I volunteer. I wanted to know where they were getting all that money from.
How are you
So
getting
when
money?
I asked him, hey man, where you get that money from? He was like, he pulled out a wad of cash in one hand and a bag of weed in another hand. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what's what? Like, this is where I got this money from. I sell weed. I was like, oh, okay. Didn't know anything about selling weed. Didn't know anything about what a $5 bag looked like, a dollar joint, a 10. I didn't know anything. I was totally naive for it. And my cousin showed me. He broke it down and showed me what a dollar joint looked like because that's what they sold for. In my, you know, youth growing up, dollar for a joint. You had $5 bags, you had $10 bags, so on, all the way up to pounds or whatever it is you can afford. So I started off selling dollar joints in junior high school, which was the 8th grade. I worked my way from selling joints to $5 bags, from $5 bags to $10 bags. So between junior high school, 7th through maybe early 9th grade, I'm selling joints, $5 sacks, $10 sacks. And in the process of doing this, one of my cousins suggested, hey man, you might as well come and join us. That way, if somebody try to take your money or jump you or not pay you, you have us to protect you. I thought it was just my cousin and his few little cronies that was there at the time, 2 or 3 individuals. So I was like, all right, I will. So I got courted in, what they call jumped in to a neighborhood, which was a street gang at the time. And the street
Hmm.
gang that I got jumped into was Inglewood Family.
Ingle family.
Yes,
So that's the name of the gang itself. Or,
yes, that's the name of the gang, Inglewood Family.
yeah.
And I was still naive because I didn't realize what I just did. I didn't realize the magnitude to this street gang that I just joined until it was a meeting that took place maybe 2, 3 months later. And the meeting was at that time mandatory. So I go to this meeting with my older cousins and everything, and I see all these individuals. I'm talking older, younger, my age, just girls, women, teenagers. And I'm like, who are all these people? They're like, all these people are your homies. All these people are your protection. All these people are your homegirls, your homies if you need. So at that time, I felt invincible. I
Hmm.
felt like, wow, you mean to tell me I can call him or him or him? Yeah, and they coming to your rescue. And that was the start of my street lifestyle. And I was still selling marijuana. I graduated from marijuana between the ages of 14, 15. By the time I was 15 years old, I started selling rock cocaine. And I was also introduced to that by another one of my older peers at the time because he was already selling rock cocaine. So here it is now. I'm selling marijuana cigarettes, 5 sacks, $10 sacks, half ounces. I got people in different schools. I'm giving them weed to sell for me. I have girls and I'm giving them weed to sell at whatever school they go to. And when I get introduced,
You're actually selling at school.
yes, I'm selling at school
Yeah.
on
Was that the
campus,
main spot, or were you also selling other places? Or
mostly at school because I know a lot of people at school would, buy weed or look for weed or whatever. And after school, I may have 2 or 3 bags on me in my pocket and go to different places where somebody might want something. I may have a bag in my pocket and, like that. So every day I may have, just say, a half ounce on me. So out of the half ounce, I got joints, I got $5 bags, I have $10 bags. And that's basically how I was selling it until I got introduced into the cocaine, like I was saying. In the process of getting introduced to the cocaine, that's a whole nother level and a whole nother magnitude of not only money, the people that you're around, the traffic, everything. It's a whole different lifestyle. And the money came so fast. Now keep in mind, I'm 15 going on 16. I didn't know what to do with it. So as a child, I'm still a teenager thinking like a child. So I'm still buying clothes, all types of tennis shoes. I'm buying jewelry. I'm buying bicycles. I'm buying I mean, as soon as I would get it, quick as I would spend it.
how much money ballpark?
Ballpark, when I first started, I was getting paid $5 off of every $20 sale because I was like the middleman,
Yeah,
not realizing $5 added up.
yeah.
So $5 off of every $20 sale, I would take the $20 sale to the person that gave me the cocaine to sell, and I would keep $5. So that eventually went off into, okay, instead of me selling $25 uh, bags of cocaine, keeping five, I want to sell $25 bags of cocaine. I want to keep the whole 25.
Mm.
So that's how it got started. I saved my money and I bought at that time 3 grams. And out of 3 grams, it was something that they call double up. Double up was meaning you spend X amount and you double your money. So I
Mm.
would spend $300 and I would make like 6, 7 back.
Mm-hmm.
And basically that's how it got started. So I would spend $300 and I would get anywhere between 6 to 7, 7.5 grams, depending on who it is. Each gram went for $100 a gram. And you break the grams down, you can sell them in $25, $50, $75, $10, five. I mean, whatever you choose to do, that's you. It's just for how you divide it and how you choose to sell it. So the way I had everything you wanted. If you wanted $30, I would give you a $30 piece. If you wanted $5, I would give you a $5 piece. If you wanted 10, whatever it is you wanted, whatever denomination you wanted, I'm gonna have it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, not realizing how many people were affected by this, how many people were strung out on cocaine, how many people were spending money on cocaine. I'm talking their whole paychecks.
Right,
They
right.
would rent their cars out. They would let us sell drugs in their house. They would literally get paid Monday, take us to the bank to cash their checks, and give me their whole check because they raised the tally from using.
Yeah.
So I would get $1,500 cash at the bank sometimes from people owing me. I would get $500, or like I said, the lifestyle was just so fast, coming at a fast pace to where I just got involved and I got heavily engrossed in it to where it felt good. The adrenaline rush, I felt invincible.
Mm. So you're 15, 16 years old, you're selling these 20, 30, $75 bags, I guess they are, and you're getting $1,500, $1,000, $2,000, and you feel invincible. You feel like
Yes,
you're on top.
because not realizing, I believe at that time, and I still believe today, that in America, money is power.
Mm.
I still believe that. Money is power. The only thing to that is brains and money is good. Brains and no money is dangerous. So because I fit into the category of brains and money is dangerous, not realizing how much power I had.
Mm.
It didn't really sink into me until I became more involved. And in the process of me becoming more involved, it creates envy, it creates jealousy, it creates animosity, not only among my associates that were distant from me, but also among my peers who were closer to me. Because making that type of money at a young age, I'm dressing in certain clothes that other people aren't dressing. It brings a lot of materialism.
Mm-hmm.
I have girlfriends that are messing with me just because of the fast money that they see. I have people want to cling to me just because of the money that they see. So if I was to tell someone no, they would personalize that. And I'm not realizing it. If I stop hanging around certain individuals, they would personalize it. If I would mess with a certain girl and wouldn't mess with her again, she would personalize it. So all of these negative energies is coming my way. And once again, because I'm a child, still thinking like a child, thinking that I was grown, I didn't see it. I didn't understand it. I would just brush it off as to, oh man, they just hating. Oh man, it ain't nothing. Not realizing, like I said, how much jealousy and animosity and envy that lifestyle brings. So in the process of being in this lifestyle, that's what brought upon my charge, which was one count first degree murder, two counts first degree attempted murder.
Mm. So take me there. You were selling drugs,
Yes.
and what happened? How did it escalate to that?
A particular individual that lived in the same area, we knew each other from just going to the same schools, but we never hung out with each other. He had his crew of friends or whatever. I had my crew of friends or whatever.
Were you still like technically part of the gang that you're in?
Yes, yes, I was already a gang member at the time. Full
And
fledged.
how old were you at this point?
I was when the animosity started or when I was
Yeah,
arrested.
yeah, yeah.
Okay,
When that animosity.
animosity started around the same time when I started running the streets. So we talking 12, 13.
Oh,
And
you had already known him
yeah, yeah, because like I said,
going all
we
the way
lived in the
back.
same area, but we didn't click. We didn't really hang out with each other.
Yeah.
I knew some of his friends, he knew some of my friends, but we were just from two totally different inner circles.
Yeah.
And one of the main reasons why we were in different circles was I was doing things at that age that he couldn't do. I was hanging out. He couldn't hang out. I was running the streets basically.
Hmm.
So I don't know what transpired in his life, but something transpired in his life to where he decided he wanted to start running the streets. And we never got along. It was always childish things. We may argue over who had, a Corvette was better than a Lincoln.
Hmm.
We may argue over, okay, Lakers are better than Boston. Green Bay Packers are better than this. I mean, it was always frivolous stuff. Who
Hmm.
dressed the best or who had the prettiest girlfriend. It was always frivolous things, but it was always that jealousy on his behalf.
Hmm.
And as time went on, we began to go from arguing to fist fights.
Hmm.
So from fist fights, we began to kind of miss each other, and it went from fist fights to guns was in. Now this is a period of years. It just didn't happen, first years. It was from, like I said, the age of 12 until the age of 18. So we're talking 6, 7 years of animosity that just built up until that final night. And
Okay, got it.
the final night took place due to the fact that I was in a situation where I was followed to my mother's house. And when I was followed to my mother's house, this individual, I don't want to say his name because,
Sure.
he was, but this particular individual that followed me to my mother's house came with a bunch of his buddies, his inner circle. So it was maybe give or take 4 or 5 people that followed me to my mother's house. And when they followed me to my mother's house, looked in my rearview mirror, 3 of the individuals had guns.
Mm.
They didn't use them that night, but
Were
they
you
were,
alone, or you had a buddy with you, or
no, I was by myself. I was alone.
you were driving home to your mom's
Yes,
house?
yes. And the 3 individuals that had the guns pulled the guns out. They didn't use them. They were just flashing them, showing. So at that time, I was at the point to where guns are made for one thing only. Guns are made to hurt. Guns are made to harm. There's nothing pretty about a gun. Guns are dangerous. So when my mom came out the house, because we fought in front of the front yard, just the expression on my mom's face, it wasn't an expression of fear or anger per se. It was more of a confusion. Look, she had a bewilderment, like, what's going on? What was it? What is all this?
Hmm.
And at
Did
that,
she say anything, or was she kind of stunned?
she was kind of stunned. She called the police. Police came out, took the report. And at that time, I was totally furious. My whole train of thought, my whole mentality, I mean, I didn't realize at that time just how much anger I had buried in me that began to manifest.
Mm.
So, in the process of the police coming out, taking a report,
Were they still there when the police came, or did they?
yeah, they were still there because they didn't
Yeah.
know my mom called the police. So, when mom called the police, they came from different directions. And with them having their cars parked on the street, they really couldn't go nowhere anywhere unless they just left their car.
Yeah.
So
And
the
you
gun,
were still in your car? You were sitting, or?
yeah, I was already out.
Yeah.
And
Oh, you were already out.
yes, and the pistols, the guns were in one of their seats, trunk, or wherever it was. They didn't search the cars at all. Like I said, the only thing they did was took names, questions, the basic, papers or whatever. And they never followed up. It didn't happen. I didn't catch my case that night. I wasn't arrested that night. This was October of 1987.
Hmm.
So fast forward from October 1987 until January 1988. So this is maybe 3, 4 months between that night in October.
So nothing actually happened that night. It just kind of
Yeah.
dissipated.
And
Yeah.
the reason why it didn't happen that night, honestly, is because I couldn't find my gun.
Okay.
I know it's harsh to say, it's not bragging, I'm not boasting, but the only reason why I didn't have it that night was because it was so much going on. I couldn't think right as far as where I put my gun. Was it in the garage? So that's the only reason why I didn't shoot someone that particular night.
Hmm.
So give or take from October to January, I was doing everything that I could to avoid this particular individual and his circle. In hindsight, I didn't do enough because that's why I was arrested. If I would have did enough, then nothing would have happened anyway. So fast forward to January 1988. I'm in Inglewood still. My mom had already moved far away. No one knew I was moving somewhere else because I'm still selling drugs. I'm still hanging out in the streets doing whatever. And I had a drug house maybe 2 or 3 blocks from where the individuals would hang out and do whatever it was they was doing.
Hmm.
Once again, I was followed, not realizing that the individuals were following me. And when they followed me to one of my girlfriend's house. When I walked upstairs and closed the door, they pulled up. Now this time there's maybe 4 of the same individuals who were at my mom's house 3, 4 months prior.
Hmm.
They were trying to get me to come out the house. I didn't go out the house. My girlfriend at that time, father came over. He went downstairs. My girlfriend went downstairs, and they were telling my girlfriend, "Hey, man, tell Villond to come out. Tell him to come out. We looking for him. We know he in there," so on and so forth.
Hmm.
All of the animosity and the anger that was kind of simmering from October, now it's just full fledged. I'm like furious again. The only thing in my mind is this has to stop. This has to stop. This has to stop. So from that time, when they pulled off, I just totally blacked out.
Mm.
Meaning not fainting or whatever, but in my mind, I was so focused on what I was going to do I blacked out and I was numb to anything else besides what I was going to do. Because I know
You had just decided.
tunnel vision. I'm just the tunnel vision. Only thing on my mind is I know where they're going. I know where they're going to hang out. So my tunnel vision was, let me go change my clothes. I went to go get my gun, purchase my bullets, waiting for
That
it.
same night, it was like it was
Same
all.
night. Yes, all these things transpired within, give or take, 3 hours, 3.5 hours from the time that they left, because I'm waiting for it to get dark.
Yeah,
So this is maybe 2:30, 3 in the afternoon. I'm waiting for it to get dark, which is winter at that time, 6, 7 o'clock, and it's dark.
yeah,
So once I waited for it to get dark, I knew where they were. I parked my car 2 or 3 blocks away. I walked down the street. I seen the individuals that I was looking for, and without hesitation, I didn't say anything. I began to open fire. I began to shoot. And in the process of me shooting, I murdered one individual and start chasing the other 2 individuals around the car, through the building, but I ran out of bullets. When I ran out of bullets, I turned around and ran back out, back up to my car, back up the street, got in my car and drove off. Now I'm still in my zone. The adrenaline hasn't really hit me. I'm still kind of blanked out.
mhm,
Once I heard the ambulance, the sirens, that woke me up. It was like I was hypnotized for that long. And when I heard the sirens, I just snapped back and I was like, whoa, what just happened? Like, man, I mean, all these, my mind is just racing now. So now the
you
adrenaline,
actually in that moment, did you remember, or you still didn't
I
remember?
remembered and I knew that I shot someone, but the reality of it was starting to sink in.
Yeah,
So since the reality of it is starting to sink in, now I'm starting to get nervous. Now I'm starting to panic. Now I'm starting to get fidgety. Now I'm starting to wonder, uh-oh, what did I do? Uh-oh, what's going to happen? Uh-oh, did he, I mean, everything. Just, my mind is just, it's going 1,000 miles an hour and trying to figure out what the hell I just put myself into.
mm,
And that night, I rode and drove around, got drunk, thinking that I can wash away and forget what just happened.
mhm.
And I ended up going to my mom's house at maybe 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. And I don't know,
She was in a different neighborhood though. Yeah,
yeah, she lived in a different neighborhood, whole
yeah,
totally different area. And my mom at that time worked, I guess you could say, early morning shift, but she had to be to work at like 3 in the morning, 4, whatever. So as I'm going to my mom's house and I walk in the door, the first thing she say, and I guess it's a mother's intuition, parents' intuition, is just the first thing she said is, "What did you do?"
she knew. She somehow.
Just sensed it. Just, what did you do?
Yeah,
Where you been? I said, I ain't done nothing. I'm just over here. I've had some cleaning, or I don't remember what I told her. I told her something. No, you did something. Something's going on. It's 2:30 in the morning. You just popping up at the house like this. Where you been? Stay home. Don't go home. Stay here till I get home. Don't you leave. Stay here. I'm like, yeah, all right, mom, whatever. So she goes to work. So now it's maybe 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm just sitting up, nervous, thinking, okay, what's going to happen? Okay. I mean, my mind, like I said, is still racing. So maybe between 6:30 a.m., the police officers came to the door, kicked in the front door of my mother's house. So it was the Inglewood Police Department. It was the LA County Sheriff Department. It was maybe, give or take, 10 officers in my mother's living room within 10 seconds, 30 seconds. They all rushed in there. And I was placed under arrest. They searched my mom's house, looking for the weapons, looking for any paraphernalia, whatever it is, telling me that I'm the suspect of a murder of such and such and attempted murder of, the two individuals. And at that moment, it still didn't sink in as to the magnitude, once again, as to what transpired not even 12 hours prior. And once I was placed under arrest, I was taken to the Inglewood substation pending VA referral, which is a 3-day wait, which is 72-hour referral. I went to court on a Wednesday, which was like maybe 4 days later for my preliminary. I was held, no bond, and that's when everything began to just all go downhill from there.
At that point, you were out of it? You were nervous?
I was nervous. I was scared. I was bewildered. I was troubled. I mean, every word you can think of that can describe fear and the unknown, I was experiencing.
Yeah.
I just graduated high school, so I just turned 18, not even 6 months prior. I've never in my life done any jail time. I was arrested, but I've never done time. I've never went to any type of youth authority, any type of youth camps, foster homes, placements, any of those things that juveniles go through the detention centers or whatever. So this was my first time really looking at jail time, prison time, and it was a long time. It just wasn't a slap on the wrist. It just wasn't we're going to call your parents, we're going to call your dad to come get you, we're going to call your uncle to come get you, we're going to call your mom. It wasn't that situation. And the first thing I can remember in the back of my head was my dad, my mom, my uncle, my grandmother telling me, one day you're going to get yourself into something and we can't come get you.
Mm.
And that's the first thing that went through my head. This is what they were telling me.
They had told you before.
One day you're going to get into something and we can't come and get you. And this was that one day nobody could come and get me. So I spent 3 years in the Los Angeles County Jail, back and forth to court, pre-trial, preliminary.
Did you have a sense that it would be 32 years or
I never imagined it would be that long, because that's when I began to study law and I began to understand the different brackets as to what the charges consisted of. We have first-degree murder, second-degree murder, manslaughter, aid in the bed. I mean, there's all these rules and laws that pertain to what I'm going through and what I'm facing. So when I had my attorney come and talk to me, when he told me that I'm facing 27 to life plus life plus life, I didn't understand what that meant. And I literally asked him, excuse me, sir, what does that mean? What do you mean? What is 27 to life? What is life? And he said, 27 to life is what it is. It means you have to do a minimum of 27 years before you're even eligible to be released. Then you have to do a minimum of the life sentence, which is 7 to life, plus the other life sentence, which is another 7 to life. So we're talking a total of maybe 34 to life straight before I'm even eligible for parole.
And you were 18, so
yes,
34 to life would put you at 42 or 52.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow.
Just add the numbers up. Now, just keep in mind, once again, this is from someone who never did any time, Aaron. Never. So to hear this from an attorney, still a teenager, that's what I was, a child, to tell me that I will not see the streets again, maybe forever.
Mm.
Seriously, that's what that sentence was. We might consider releasing you. We might not consider releasing you. That's what that sentence meant.
How
Literally.
did that land for you as an 18-year-old
As
kid?
an 18-year-old, I was so nervous. As an 18-year-old, I told myself that if I get sentenced to whatever it is that they're going to give me, any life sentence, I'm going to kill myself.
Mm.
Period. I'm not doing time for nobody. You might as well kill me. I'm not doing no life sentence. Period. And that's what I put in my brain at that time. So fast forward hindsight, I'm still here talking to you. So we know that that idea went under the rug. But my first initial 0 to 5 years, that's what I planned on doing. I wanted to kill myself. Now I'd already had the plan on how I was going to do it. I had already started practicing, literally. And I was going to try to OD on drugs.
You were
So
going to find some time that you weren't in jail, or were you going to do it in jail?
no, I was going to do it when I was in jail.
You were going to
So
do it in jail?
yes, because they have drugs in jail. You can get whatever you want in jail, whatever. So
Interesting.
since I already knew how strong heroin was, since I already knew how strong pills were, I had planned on just taking a bunch of heroin or a bunch of pills and just going out in my sleep.
Yeah. Just in your cell.
In my
Just,
cell, just
yeah.
not telling nobody, just
Does that happen fairly often?
it's common, put
Yeah.
it like that. It's common to where people either overdose, it's common to where people hang themselves, it's common to where people will slit their throats, it's common to where people will slit their wrists.
Mhm.
So, yes, it's common, but it's not as common. But I do know some individuals personally that committed and took their own lives because whatever it was that they were going through at that time, they felt like that was their only outlet.
Right, right. I
And
get it.
I understood because I know what that feels like to feel like that's my only option.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I was pulled from that darkness to not go all the way and commit that act. And at the same time, I do understand what it feels like to be in that form and manifest that energy on taking one's life.
Yeah. I know it too because I've had multiple bouts of depression, including
Okay.
thoughts of suicide. So
Yeah.
I know there's how the mind runs
Yeah.
to those thoughts. What pulled you out of it, Milan? What?
Honestly, I had a spiritual awakening. And I know to some people, they may come up with their interpretations on what I experienced or whatever, but I had to personalize it. At that time, my Grammy was going through some things in and out as far as her health. And before she passed away, I would tell the family, hey man, don't tell Grammy where I'm at. But once again, a parent's intuition, deep down inside, she knew something was going on because I was like one of her favorite grandchildren. So here it is, and she's in and out, hospital and everything. I'm not there. Something is going on. Where my grandbaby at? Where Papa at? Where my boy at? So when she finally passed away, when she was going in and out, because she ended up having, a heart attack, stroke. Um, I seen her in a vision. I seen her in a dream.
Hmm.
And I wasn't under the influence of no drugs. I wasn't drunk. I wasn't delirious. I seen her in my dream just as clear as day.
You were in your cell at the time, or?
Yes, I was in my cell at the time. And when she appeared to me, she said, "Don't worry about it. It's going to be all right." And I didn't give her time to finish because I didn't know if she was going to finish. But I do remember her saying, "Don't worry about it. It's going to be all right." And I woke up in a sweat and I'm looking around and I'm startled. I'm like, what the hell just happened? Am I going crazy, whatever? And she ended up passing away about like a week later.
Hmm.
So that was the start of me um, becoming more spiritually in tune, for me to become more aware of just, I guess, life in general from a spiritual aspect. So I began to dig because I wanted to know what it was that I just experienced. And I went to a few chaplains, and like I said, people have certain biased opinions based upon what they believe. Since I'm not a Christian, I'm open-minded to Christianity, but I'm not a Christian. I don't claim a particular religion. So when I'm hearing their interpretation of it, that wasn't what I felt. So I began to delve more into Buddhism, Islam, Taoism, Sufi. I mean, all of these Jehovah Witnesses, every Catholicism. I'm really on a journey trying to understand what was it that I just experienced that can't be put in layman's terms, that can't be put in mere words. And that's when my journey began, to where I still would have bouts of depression. I still would have bouts of somberness. I still would have bouts of loneliness, so on and so forth from being incarcerated. It just wasn't enough to have me go and commit suicide, to take my life. It was enough to keep me afloat, to where now I want to know the answer because I'm very inquisitive. I'm the type of person that if you tell me something, I may take it for face value until I go research it myself. And I've always been like that. I've always been, uh, like they say, I don't look at the surface of something. I want to dig in. I want to know where it comes from. I ask questions. Where did this come from? How did this? And if you can't answer, I won't get frustrated. I would just go try to find it myself. And then if I found it, I may come back to the same individual and tell him or her, well, what do you think about this? And I've always been like that. So that's what helped me, like I said, become more spiritually in tune. And it helped me understand basically life in general, on the physical aspect, spiritual aspect, and the mental aspect.
Hmm. So I guess your 20s then, you spent diving into this, reading books.
I'm still diving into it.
Yeah.
So yes, my journey started because I turned 19 after this experience. So my journey started at the age of 19. So from the age of 19 up until today, even, I still have a lot of questions. And I've also received a lot of answers, meaning I practice IFA, IFA. IFA is a spiritual way of life that comes from the Yoruba people. The Yoruba people is from Nigeria. So along my journey, as I began to go deeper and deeper, I studied Egyptology. Like I said, I studied so many different things, voodoo, witchcraft, everything.
You were getting books in
Yeah,
prison, or yeah?
yes, I was. Yeah, so I was getting
You
books in
order
prison.
books, or how
Yes,
did?
yes, you can order books through the bookstore directly.
Yeah.
What at that time Barnes and Noble, because before all the technology, so we still reading paperback books.
So you get
Or
these paperback books delivered.
yeah, it's still paper before the digital age kicked in. So back then it was stores like Crown Books, what Barnes and Noble. It wasn't no Amazon. It was Penguin Books. You know, you had various bookstores because back then bookstores you still had libraries. You could go and literally pick up a book and smell it with ink and
You mean
cover
it
the
wasn't on a
whole
screen?
thing.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, I was getting all types of spiritual books, and
Yeah.
it opened my mind to so many things that I had questions for. And like I said, my comfort zone was Ifa because Ifa is not a religion, it's a way of life. That's why I don't use the word religion. Religion is so dogmatic and puts you in a box. I look at what I practice that is spiritual, universal. It's a way of life, meaning every day I do it. There's no special day for me to do this. There's no, okay, today I'm thankful every day. The universe,
What's an example of a practice from
an
Ether?
example would be part metaphysics, which means anything that's mentally conceivable is physically achievable, which means that if I have the tools to manifest what I'm doing, it can be achieved. Now, it's a set time. It may not happen overnight. For example, if I want a house, or if I want a car, if I want a job, whatever it is, mentally in my brain, that's the seed that's planted. So once it's planted in my brain, I have to put forth the work to make that become a reality. My tools being, who do I know? My tools being, find a job. My tools being, okay, how long is this going to take? How much research? What do I need? What, that's the tools which are there. So as long as I have these tools to get this house, it may take 5 years, it may take 10 years, it may take 20 years. But I know on my 20th year, I'm going to have enough money, enough credit, backings to go and get my house. And
Yeah.
that's how this works. It's anything that we can conjure up within reason. I'm not saying I'm going to be a rocket scientist in 6 months, whatever that. No, that's not how it works. I'm
I love
talking
it.
things that we just naturally take for granted and look upon as nothing and meaningless, but it is something to it. It also teaches me that what I put into the universe comes back to me,
Mm.
period. If I'm a negative individual and I'm wreaking havoc on people, negativity will come my way. Just that's the golden rule. It's law. If I'm putting forth positive energy, positive things to the universe, positive things will come back. Now I don't mean waking up saying, "Well, I'm gonna go feed a bomb today and see what I get back." That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about just naturally being the humble person that you are, being a natural person to where you just naturally give, you naturally want to help people. And I don't mean always material. You can help people just by conversation. You can help people just by listening. You can help people just by giving somebody an apple today. You can help someone just by giving somebody a ride. In other words, the elements, the universe, the stars, the moon, the ocean, nature, all of these things are a part of what I practice because all of these things are given to us to use. And we look at it, we say the earth is a marketplace. Go shopping.
Hmm.
The earth is a marketplace. Use it. Go shopping.
That's a cool tagline. I'm imagining like a shirt, the
Yeah.
marketplace. Go
And
shop.
that's what it is.
So I want to go now, Villond, to you're studying this spirituality, you're embodying this. What what happened? Like take us to kind of end of your prison sentence? Fast forward us there.
Okay, I was preparing for the parole board, give or take my last 3 years.
Last 3 years of the 32-year sentence.
Yes, yes.
That was the 32 years. Was that the sentence or
No, my sentence was 25 to life
25 to life?
plus 7 to life plus 7 to life.
Okay, got it.
So my original sentence was 3 life sentences.
Yeah.
So I went from 3 life sentences in 1990 after being sentenced in July to 25 to life plus 7 to life in 1993.
Hmm.
One of my charges was dropped, which is appeal, courts, lawyer, things like that. So from July 1993 up until March 2020, my sentence was 25 to life. So I prepared for the parole board, give or take my 3 years prior.
3 years leading up to 2020.
Yes,
So from 2016 or 17,
yes,
you were preparing.
preparing
Yeah.
and
Reading, studying.
everything. And I was already having like little knickknacks. I was already taking like correspondence courses. I took a paralegal course. I was college courses, victim sensitivity courses, anger management, even domestic violence. And I never even hit a woman as far as that, but I took it anyway. Alcoholic Anonymous.
Was the victim sensitivity, was that around, I know you've talked about the impacts of the crime that you committed and drawing that out. Was that what that was?
Yes, victim sensitivity taught me what they call the wavelength, the 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 the, uh, the way I would touch, and it was called the ripple effect.
Hmm.
That was the proper word. So in victim sensitivity, the ripple effect taught me that my one action cause and affect so many people, meaning I was in the middle of this circle, and every circle afterwards, I affected someone's life. So I'm in the middle of the circle. The second circle may have been a, the family. That's the first one. The victims, their families, their lives, future coaches, future judges, future lawyers, future coaches, future mentors, the paramedics that came out, affected their life because this could have been their first day on the job. It could have been their last day on the job. It could have been in between to where they had to come out and see another child, a teenager, laying on the concrete. I affected the detective that had to investigate the case. I infected the owner of a liquor store that was across the street. I affected the little elementary school that was across the street. I affected the neighbors who lived in the apartments and the houses around. I affected the high school because it happened, give or take, 3 or 4 blocks from the high school that we went to. So the teachers were affected, they knew us. And each circle went bigger and bigger as to how many people I affected. I affected the morgue. I affected the autopsy individual. I affected so many different people, and I never realized that until this class of victim sensitivity, because victim sensitivity puts us in the shoes of the actual victim. It's like a reverse role. So it's like, okay, what if someone murdered your family member? What if someone murdered your brother, your mother, your sister, your whatever? What if someone murdered one of your close friends? So this class teaches individuals who are serious about it, you're going to come out affected some kind of way. You're going to come out thinking totally different because it's inevitable. You began to learn empathy again. You began to learn sympathy again. You began to understand what it's like to go through what the victims went through. And that's what that class, victim sensitivity, taught me. And personal development was another class I took. Personal development was a class that helped me understand who I was as an individual. It's called insight. Insight is digging deep into my life or any human's life, realizing where they came from, how do we get this twisted sense of normalizing our criminal addictions, normalizing our criminal behaviors. Basically, it's just fleshing out all of your life, understanding what made you the person that you are today. So all of these things is what the parole board requires, because the parole board has to be 100% sure as they can be as a human being that when he or she signs their name on this release docket, you're not going to be released and go commit another crime because it falls on this individual that signed.
The parole officer is at some level responsible.
Yes, the parole board, yes, because they're the person that says, Sacramento, Villond is ready to be released. Sacramento, Villond has showed us that he's rehabilitated. Sacramento, Villond has showed us a total 360 turnaround. Villond has plans. He has family support. He has a stable environment. He knows he's not going to go back to criminal activities. He knows he can't go back and hang out in the old neighborhood. He knows, and basically that's what they're signing their signatures to. And going in front of the parole board, if you're not in tune, if you don't know who you are as an individual, literally, you'll get denied because they look for the most minute wrinkles in your life. Because keep in mind, you have a total of 2, maybe 3 hours, depending on your case factor, depending on your crime, depending on what happened, to convince a panel of 1 commissioner, 1 deputy commissioner, a DA, maybe a witness, mostly just the commissioner and deputy commissioner. Those are the main 2 that you have to convince that what they see on paper is not the individual that's in front of them today. And that's the whole thing. They don't know you. They don't know anything about you. They don't know anything about you. They don't know your background, anything. The only thing they know about you is what they see on paper.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, got it. So you did that, and I guess you passed that parole review or whatever it's called.
Yes.
All good. So that was like leading up to 2020, yeah.
Yes. And I went to the parole board October 9th, 2019. And this was my first time going. I'm nervous as hell.
Yeah.
I'm trying to realize and think, okay, do I have it yet? Okay, if they ask me this question, how do I answer? If I answer, it's so many things going through our minds and my mind because we don't know how they're going to present themselves because there's no absolute way on how he or she is going to question you. They may ask you the most minute questions that you may think is minute, but it is so serious. It can be something like, when did you feel it was okay to become a criminal?
Yeah.
And you're like shocked because it's like you may think that they're just asking a relevant question, but you have to answer that question correctly. So
Right.
if you were
Right.
to say something like, okay, Mr. Cook, when did you feel it was okay to become a criminal? If my response was, well, I never thought it was okay to become a criminal, that's a strike.
Right.
Because if you felt that it wasn't okay to become a criminal, why in the hell were you doing the
Why did
stuff
you
you
do
were
it?
doing?
Yeah.
See,
They're looking to almost
they're looking at everything.
trip you up in a way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the only thing that I can say to that question is, okay, Mr. Cook, what made you become a criminal? I became a criminal because I was attracted to the lifestyle. I
Mm.
became a criminal because I wanted to have what they had. I became a criminal because I was a follower. I became a criminal because whatever it is, you just can't say that it wasn't okay to be a criminal. And that's how they look at it.
Yeah.
And they will deny you just like that with that simple question if you can't answer it.
Yeah. Cool. So you got through it. You passed.
I got through it, and it was my first one, and I passed. Not only did I pass, I did some things that were far and beyond what they expected and what I expected. Because the commissioner, during the process of going through the litany of questions and so on and so forth, he paused and he told me, he said, Villond, I want to just commend you on what you are doing today because you're very articulate. We understand you. We see that you've gotten a lot of things together. You're not stuttering. Every question we ask you, you're on point. You're answering these questions. You know basically who you are as an individual. So for you
Mm.
to know who you are as an individual, it shows us that you understand what's going on. So that was the first compliment he gave. This is like kind of in the middle of my parole hearing because it was total maybe 2 hours and some change.
Yeah.
So the second question that I answered, he had asked, okay, let me know what your causative factors are. Causative factors are things that cause us to do the things that we do. So it can be gangs, it can be fast money, it can be ego, it can be wanting to show off, it can be envy, it can be, I mean, it's a litany of things. There's no just one absolute causative factors. But whatever causative factors that you name or you give them, you also have to speak upon. So one of my causative factors was selfishness. So when he asked me, okay, Mr. Cook, are you still selfish today? Yes, I am. Because I am. And he said, okay, that's good. Because selfishness can be a positive thing, it can be a negative thing. I already knew that growing
Mm.
up. I knew the difference. You got negative and positive. So he said, okay, are you aware of that? I said, yes, sir. Yes, I am. So he said, well, give me an example of being selfish in a negative way. And when I told him a situation with my sister when it came to certain packages or a store, whatever it was, if it wasn't done on a certain day, once again, because I'm spoiled, I would pout sometimes. I would have little tail ends to it. And I said that's a form of being selfish in a negative way because I'm not taking into consideration that my sister is a junior high school teacher. So for her day starts from 6 in the morning. She may not get home till 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. She has my nieces with her, which is her grandchildren. She got to get them ready for the next day, feed them, bathe them, so on and so forth. So by the time she finished, it may be 9, 10 o'clock at night. So it's not that she didn't intend on doing it, it's just that I can't work around her schedule. I mean, she can't work around my schedule. I have to work around her schedule. And that was the example I gave. And he said, yeah, that is true. That's accurate.
Mm.
And it's a crazy thing because this same question, when I went back to the yard and asked 3 individuals the same question, all 3 individuals said no. And I
Yeah.
told them,
Right.
I said, all 3 of you guys would have been denied right there. Why is that, man? No, I'm not selfish today, man. I said, no, you are selfish. All human beings are selfish. So
Yeah.
once I explained it and broke it down to them, and they was like, well, what would it be in a positive way? And if it's, positive and negative, I'm not selfish. I say you are selfish. You selfish every time you ask your wife for some money to send you to the store. You selfish every time you get on the phone, knowing they got to pay the phone bill. You just call them just to be called. You selfish every time you get mad when they don't want to come see you this weekend. So once I gave a list of all these things, they began to think about it. So they was like, okay, well, reverse it then. How would it be positive? It would be positive when you told your family, okay, this month, don't send me no money to the store. It would be positive if you told your family, okay, this weekend, don't come see me. It would be positive if you told your family, okay, this quarter, don't send me no package. Simple as that.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
these are the questions that, like I said, they're simple questions, but you have to have the right answer.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice distinction there. Okay, cool. So that that was, I guess, just earlier this year. That takes
Yeah,
us up to earlier this year
yes,
when about March or April.
yes.
What
March 19th to be exact.
March 19th. So
Yeah,
what
because
was
what
that first day like?
man, first, after I got found suitable in October, let's kind of take it back a little bit. So when I was found suitable October 9th, 2019, the way it is in the state of California, it's a 150-day wait. So you
Yeah.
have to wait 150 days for the governor to sign the final paperwork and for it to go through all the bureaucracy and the chain to get everybody, on board. So this 150-day waiting period, that's like brutal because it's like, the governor
Like
can
the
just,
last it's like the
yeah,
last 30 days of school.
yeah. And they can just check no. And it's like, that's it. You got to appeal it.
Yeah.
So that's that 150-day wait. So once that 150 day was passed, they'll come and get you a week prior. And what you do, you sign your parole papers, what they call it. So when the lady came, and it's done every Friday in the morning, and I knew the lady that did it. So I'm just waiting. When I get to my 150th day, it just happened to fall on the weekend. I'm like, oh, man, I'm at 151. I'm at 152. So when they called my name Friday morning, I knew what it was for. Cook, report to the program office. I already knew it was going to sign my parole paper. So that was a Friday. And when I signed them on that Friday, which I think was the 13th, she was like, okay, you paroled on Thursday, which was that Thursday morning. And I paroled at exactly 8:45 a.m. At 8:45 a.m., I walked on the other side of the prison gate. And even just the day it happened, it was like a surreal situation because I'm like, wow, I'm really going home today. Because, the officer, the CO comes and say, okay, Cook, you leaving, you parole, and I'll be back in a couple of hours to come get you. Just be ready, So I'm like, wow, I'm really leaving. Little sweaty palm. I'm like, okay. So they come and get you, and they took me to the little process area. And in the process of going to the process area is what we call, we go through the litany of your name, your mother's name, where you were born, Social Security. They got to make sure that you're the person that's on this paper.
Were you
So,
nervous there? You're like,
yeah, because
uh-oh,
I'm still
if
looking
I
around.
answer anything wrong.
Yeah, I'm still looking around like, okay, what's going to
Yeah. Oh, I just lost you there, Villond.
happen? So in the process of me doing that, what they call dress outs. Your dress outs are the clothes that your family sends you.
Okay. Dress up. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're back now. I got you. So
Okay.
dress up.
Yeah. So in the dress house, he set the box on top of the counter and he goes, okay, here you go, man. Go ahead and get dressed. They're real clothes. They're not prison clothes.
What'd you have? Do you have
I had like a charcoal gray sweater. I had some black Calvin Klein jeans, my belt, and I had a pair of black Nike Airs or whatever those shoes are, Nike Cross Trains, whatever, something like that. So just putting on real clothes, after so long is like, whoa, man. So I'm still waiting. And they process us out and they give us all the money that they're going to give us. And they give us like these little debit cards because they don't give us cash anymore because once again, technology. So when they give us these little debit cards, whatever monetary funds that we have, up to $700, they'll deposit it on the card. And anything over $700, we have to go to our parole officer and get the remainder in the check. So since I already knew this prior, I told my family to stop sending me money, and I just rounded off at $650. So I had the $650 on my debit card, still waiting to get processed. And so maybe about 8 o'clock after they processed me, because it was three of us who was paroling this day. And he's told me, okay, what we're going to do, we're going to come back and get you, take you to the front gate, your people there waiting. And I'm like, yeah. Still didn't sink in. I'm like, okay, it's coming. And they drove me in the van to the front gate. And once I got on the other side of the front gate, like I said, it was 8:45 a.m. And they opened the gate, opened the door, and said, hey, man, you free, man. Go on and get out. There was my family right there. I was like, ah, And I didn't look back. I told her, I kept telling people, when I leave this prison, I'm not looking back until I get around regular society. So I see regular cars, people walking down the street, I'm going. So it was my wife and one of my friends that came to see me. They came to pick me up. So in the process of picking me up, my friend, which is another childhood friend that I've been knowing since the second grade, is still in my life. He was like, man, you ready? I'm like, ready for what? Yeah, I'm ready. He said, no, we're finna go to the store, go shopping. I'm like, dude, man, I don't care, let's go. So we went to a store, Food for Less. It was maybe 30 minutes away from the prison. Because like I said, I paroled from Lancaster. So the Food for Less was in Palmdale. And it didn't hit me. I didn't feel out of place.
It's kind of surreal though, right? Or
yeah, it's kind of like I wasn't nervous. I wasn't thinking, "Ooh, they know I just got out of prison an hour ago. Do I look like a prisoner? I didn't have those thoughts going through my mind. Honestly, I went and did a little shopping and blended right in.
did you go get like a double cheeseburger?
No, because I don't eat meat. I eat seafood. I'm like I guess they call it pescatarian now, whatever that word is.
Get some
I don't eat
scallops
meat
or something.
No, I just ate I bought some gummy bears my first day. Yeah, I bought some gummy bears, man. And think some other little items, cinnamon rolls or something. And drove home. And I didn't tell my mom. I wanted to surprise my mom.
Yeah.
So
she didn't even know you were getting out? Or?
She didn't know, but she felt it because she knew I was coming home. But I was like, ooh, I'm gonna just surprise. So instead of me just popping up at the door, someone was like, hey man, instead of just popping up at the door when you pull up at your mom's place, call her first. Because your mom is old. You don't want her to be excited and mess around and something happened.
Yeah.
So I thought about that. I said, yeah, okay. So when I pulled up in the parking lot, I called her first and just told her, hey, mom, open the door. I'm going to come upstairs. And yeah, man, it was a beautiful feeling. Beautiful, beautiful feeling.
That's amazing, man. Well, I'm glad you're out. I'm glad you're here with us, and that we met through.
And I'm glad we met too, Aaron. I really am.
Yeah, man. So what's next for you? Because I think people will be curious.
Well, right now I'm doing volunteer work for CPP part-time. Eventually, as it grows, it should go full-time. Right now I'm in school. I started school taking up culinary August 31st. I have a full class schedule, 4 classes. I'm in school. Everything is on Zoom now on the computer. So I'm
Hmm.
taking classes from Tuesday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. And on Fridays, it's from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Because with the culinary, they give demonstrations and maybe little examples of things that we got to do. Um, I've already established my bank account. Established my ID, the basics. I just have to go get my driver's license, hooking a schedule up for that. I plan on working the end of this month or later in the first week of November, and I want to work for FedEx. I have someone that's going to help me get into FedEx and start that off. And basically, that's what I plan on doing. And once I finish school with the culinary, I'm going to venture off into something, maybe catering, it may be a truck, it may be a little tiny mom and pop shop, it may be a personal shop. I mean, the list goes on. And since cooking has always been my natural talent and it's something that always kept me in a peaceful mood, my mom would always tell me, well, you might as well go and get certified for it. That way, at least get paid for something that you just naturally enjoy doing anyway. Because cooking puts me in a blissful mood. It just relaxes me. I'm just in my zone. And that's when I'm going taking up culinary, like I said, at LA Trade Tech.
You're you're piecing together your entrepreneurial journey is what I'm seeing over here.
Yes,
Because
yeah,
you're working for FedEx and you're doing school and you have ideas and visions of a food truck or a bistro or something. So you kind of
yeah,
you bootstrapping your entrepreneurial journey, man.
exactly. And once again, metaphysics. Anything that's mentally conceivable is physically achievable if we have the right tools. My tools are getting educated, getting my scholarship, getting my certificate. My tools are working at FedEx, accumulating my money and my capital that I need, saving money, so on and so forth. So within 0 to 5, I can kind of look back on it and say, okay, this is how far I've come. So this is what I need to complete it. Or 0 to 5, okay, I'm ready now.
That's awesome, man. I have no doubt from what I've seen from you already, I have no doubt that you will create that. You will create your path. You will create the business that you want to. It's pretty clear over here.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Aaron.
Yeah. Well, I want to acknowledge you, man, for sharing so openly. I get at it can be tricky to share our past and share our stories, but there was a level of honesty and openness about it that was so authentic that I really appreciate it. I think it will resonate with people.
And I appreciate you, Aaron, for allowing me to share my story because once again, I guess you could say I'm a walking testimony. And people would always tell me that, man, when you get out, you got a story to tell. I'm like, man, whatever, man. So I'm starting to realize that I am a walking testimony on so many levels as far as where I've come and where I'm planning on being, what I went through, and to still come out with no anger issues, not bitter at society, not blaming anyone, and still have that energy to where if I can just find one teenager, girl or boy, it doesn't matter, to show them, hey, it's a different road to take. It's a different route. It's a different way. You don't have to express yourself with violence. You don't have to prove yourself. You don't have to show off. You don't have to look good in front of people. Just have people accept you for who you are, and that's what's important. And if people don't want to accept you for who you are, then those people, you don't want them around you anyway.
Nice, man. It's a beautiful lesson. Well, let's wrap there, Villond, unless there's anything else you have top of mind. Otherwise, I really appreciate it and I've enjoyed it thoroughly.
Appreciate it again, man. And I thank you, Aaron, once again. And I appreciate it. And man, just thank you. I mean, like I said, it's kind of can't even put in words, man, how I've been accepted in CPP, Compassion Prison Project, and how no one is judging me, everyone is open-minded, and so many doors of opportunity are opening up. And I'm taking advantage of every door that's open to me, every. And I appreciate it, and I look at every door as a blessing and an opportunity to help me further my journey and where it is I can be.
Cool, brother. I feel that for sure.
So,
Thanks, man. I'll talk to you soon, brother.
all right. Thank you, man.
All
Have a
right,
good
well,
day.
talk soon.